In this video, we're going to show you how to remove and replace rear calipers. So here we have our new caliper, and before I install it, I'm going to take it apart and confirm that I've got enough silicone or caliper grease in the slider pins, and then I'm going to put the tins on, and then I'll put the bracket on by itself. It's just easier, and even though manufacturers say they grease them, let me tell you, they don't put enough in, as far as I'm concerned. 14 millimeter socket. We're going to take this right off. Set that aside. Now we're left with the caliper bracket. And as you can see, there's no tins on it. It comes with them. So we're going to install those. We're also going to take the boots apart and see just how much grease is in there. Now, the boots are dry. I'm a believer in let's put some caliper grease or silicone paste in those boots. It helps the future of them. They get nice and lubricated, but every time it slides right through. Plus it keeps the boot loose and ready to go. Let's put a little extra on there. Always take them out one at a time, so you make sure you put the pin back in the proper place. And then I delete the air. See how that one has a little rubber ring on the end of it? It's supposed to go in that section right there. Perfect. All right, let's open up our bag of goodies. These come with the caliper. They're new tins, the hardware. It also will have a new anti-rattle clip or the indicator for the pads, and then the tins. I put just a little bit of caliper grease or high temp silicone paste on the actual bracket. Do not put it on the actual top of the tin. Just collect sand and dirt, and it doesn't let the pad slide evenly. It causes premature pad wear, actually. This stops it from rusting. So the tabs go with the high side to the back and the elbow part sticking out, just like that. Push it all the way down, then match up the rest and do the same. Oh, see, did it backwards. Perfect. Now we're ready to transfer the pads over on that. So we're going to take the old caliper off and transfer the brand new pads over because this brake job was just done, and we discovered as we were doing it that the actual piston seal has a big tear in it. So that requires a new caliper. So that's why we're doing it on new brakes. First thing we're going to do is take this flex hose, take it off, 14 millimeter wrench or socket. I got to break that free. I have a catch bucket underneath, and I'm going to catch the brake fluid. I personally do not believe in pinching flex hoses, and the reason for it is that you don't know what's going on inside there. That is a multiple layered flex hose. It's got threads. It's got some steel in it. Sometimes they have copper line. And if I crimp that, I could cause internal damage, not be aware of it, and then down the road, this flex hose will collapse. That's what they call the collapsed flex hose. And my new caliper will get destroyed because it won't get the proper pressure to it, and then I'll end up having to do, the pads will wear unevenly or even lock up. Then I have to do a flex hose and another caliper and another brake job. So a little loss of brake fluid is not a big deal. Just make sure you have a catch bucket and you're catching it. Sometimes you can put an item in the flex hose to stop it, but it's not that big deal to me because I'm not going to be taking 30 minutes to do this. Now I have to take these pads out, so with that being the case, I'm going to break the slider pins off and take the caliper itself out. If you are a car enthusiast and you have extra parts around, you could put a plastic or rubber tip in there. I use an old tire stem, just like that. And it will lessen the amount of fluid coming out. So just take your 2 slider pins off, get those completely out. The new caliper comes with all new hardware, so that's another thing you don't have to worry about. And it does come with new copper O-rings and a banjo bolt, which is that actual flex hose bolt. Now we can just pull this right out. I'm going to place it in my bucket and let it drain. I just got a gear wrench to let it go faster. These bolts you do need to reuse because it is a bracket to the knuckle. Now we can take our caliper bracket out and transfer those pads over. So here we have our brand new brake pads that we just installed yesterday, and I'm going to just transfer them over because it's okay to do that. And I left the old actual indicator on there. And I'm just gonna, sometimes the easiest way I've discovered is angle tilt like this, so you can push down. See, it's so slippery. But you can angle and just push down and guide it right in. Perfect, like that. There you go. Let's do the other side and get rid of this. So I'm gonna do it the same way. See if I can give you a different angle. Push down and stand it up. Do it this way, guide it, stand it up. Look at that, almost looked like I knew what I was doing. Now we're going to transfer this bracket over and torque it down. I'm just going to bring our caliper bracket right over, install that top bolt. Always start it by hand. Bring those in. There we go. Get the bottom one, do the same thing. That's a 17 millimeter, so I'm gonna get my ratchet wrench, gear wrench, snug them up, and we will torque that to factory specs. All right, let's get our torque wrench. 17 millimeter socket, and the torque is 58 foot-pounds. Let's double check. All right, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to install this caliper on the flex hose. I like to do it without it mounted, so that way I can freely find the threads. Make sure your catch bucket's underneath that. It comes with the new banjo bolt and new copper washers, so you're going to use all 3 of these items. So let's take the old tire seal out. Set that aside. make sure the old washer is out. It is. Went out with the old caliper. You can't have a double washers on this, so make sure you take it out. One copper washer on one side and then the other side, just like that. Then we're going to take our caliper, and you'll see that there's a threaded part, and then there's that little drilled out pivot, and that's where that hook part is going to go right in there. So, just like that. Let's start the threads by hand. Try to get that evenly in there. I'm just resting it. I'm not going to bolt it up. The flex hose is not flexible. So I started that, threaded in. I'm going to get, it's a 12 millimeter, the new banjo bolt on this caliper is a 12 millimeter wrench or socket. I'm just going to going to snug it, and then I'm going to actually put the mounting bolts in, 2 caliper slider pin bolts. These are 14. Snug them, and we will torque these to factory spec. And that's a 14 millimeter socket. All right, now I'm going to get my 12 millimeter wrench, and I'm going to snug this up. I'm going to crush those copper washers. I'm going to give it a visual, bring it down till I feel it restraint, and I'm going to give it a little quarter turn. Let's get some parts cleaner, clean that up. And now I'm just going to do what I do with normal calipers. I'm going to go apply the brake pedal, pump it up, and then I'm going to open that bleeder screw and gravity bleed it. And don't forget to check your master. The master cylinder is usually always located in front of the driver's seat in the engine compartment, and always check the cover when you take that off. It should always tell you what kind of fluid to put in. This says .3. The line indicator is on the side here. I'm just going to overfill it maybe a little bit because, well, we know we're going to let some out, right? Because we're going to gravity bleed the brakes. Now I can pump the brakes up and then open the bleeder screw. All right, so I've topped the master off, made sure it's good, put the cover back on, pump the brakes up, which pushes this piston out, fills up this little cylinder with brake fluid. And now we're just going to let nature do its thing and gravity bleed it. Take the boot off like this, and then 10 millimeter wrench on this caliper, and then open it up. And let gravity do its thing. I'm going to put this boot right here because I'm going to reapply it. So now what we're looking for is a steady stream. So if you follow it down, you can see it's steady, nonstop. And I've been watching it for like 2 minutes. And no more little air bubbles came out. So we're going to close this up. Get a good snug. And I'm going to clean it, put the cap back on. Now we can put our tire back on. always put the bottom one on. This has a shank, what we call a lug nut shank on it. So make sure you get that seated right inside. And then I'll just take my electric gun and just slowly bottom it out. Perfect. Do the rest. We'll lower it and torque it to factory specs. Wheel torque for this is 76 foot-pounds, 21 millimeter socket, and we're going to do it in a star pattern. Double check. When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.